these two pawns, which are pretty locked. He can't come forward here. He just loses that pawn. It's pretty difficult to change this center configuration, and it's going to be locked for a while. So getting outside of that is going to be his main goal, and he's done that with b6. It was a pretty natural thing to do. One thing I could have tried to do was try to stop it somehow, but it's not going to be easy. I couldn't really see any way to stop b6. So he's just going to get that move in, and he's going to play. So I manually castle, and he's coming forward with knight b4. This is where things get a little ugly for me. Black is going to cause a lot of ruckus on this back rank. Here's what he's threatening. He's threatening to bring his knight to c2. Now, what good is that? One of the most important things about knights that you learn right away is that they can very easily and sort of deceptively, you have to really look for this. It doesn't just jump out at you all the time until you're pretty experienced with tactics. But he's attacking c2, which if he gets his knight to c2, and right now there's nothing stopping that, then he's going to attack the king, which is check. It means I have to deal with that, and he's also attacking the rook. Since the rook is a more valuable piece than a knight, he'll win material by taking that rook and then me taking the knight. That's a trade that he wins. Therefore, we have to stop him playing knight c2. Now, it's not so easy. If I just move my knight or my rook over to here, then he wins a pawn. Therefore, it's not straightforward. There are a couple of other things that we could do. Rook c1, but this is going to bring my a rook out of play. It's going to take it out of play. What I want to do, my ultimate goal, is to have rooks on the d and c file. One to support my d weakness, and the other to have the open file all to myself. So, what do we do about this? Is there a way to defend the c2 square with another piece? Not easily. We can't do this. He just trades that piece off, and I really like my bishop. I don't want to trade off my bishop just yet. So this piece doesn't really work. It's not the worst move on the board, but it doesn't really work. No real way to defend c2 with the knight. Obviously, this square would do it, but that square is occupied. That square is occupied. So we have to find some other way to do it. The only other way that I could find, and the way that I chose, was to move this rook to d2. So I moved rook d2, protecting c2 from his knight. And I think that does a pretty effective job. It not only does that, but it also gives me the option of doubling my rooks on the c file. Later on, I'll be able to move my a rook over and my d rook over, and I'll have two rooks on the c file, which would be great. I really would like that in the future as an option. So getting one rook off the back row and onto the second row is going to help me. a5 supporting his knight, but it doesn't really do anything. I was a little puzzled by this move. I don't remember thinking there was any real reason for him to do this. I don't think it hurts anything, but it doesn't seem to get anything accomplished. I think probably a better move for him there would have been b7. Bishop b7. Getting his rooks connected, getting them access to the c file. I think really it's a race to that c file at this point. That seems to be the most important territory on the board. Wide open, nothing blocking it. It's just kind of Main Street into the other person's camp. So I think a5 sort of misses the point of what's going on in the position. I think bishop b7 is better in that regard. It does a couple of things. One, it activates that bishop totally. That's a great diagonal for that bishop. And number two, it connects the rooks and gets them access to the c file. So b5 was played. Next I played bishop b5. Also misses the point a little bit of that c file, but it does attack his weakness. Now what I'm doing is preventing his bishop from leaving that d7 square. His bishop can't leave, otherwise he just loses the pawn. So I'm attacking that, and eventually what I would like to do is to maybe get a rook to c7 and pile up on that thing if I can. If there were some way to get a rook to d6, it'd be good too, but I don't know. What you want to do here is just imagine sort of Jeremy Silman calls it fantasy positions, where you just imagine where your pieces are going to do the most good. If I can imagine getting my rook there, that's great. Now I need to make it happen. If I can imagine my rook being right here, okay, is it possible to make it happen? And so you're working through variations trying to get your rook up here to c7. And is he going to do something? What's he going to do to counter that? Is he going to get his rook to here? Is he going to get his other rook to here? So he's defending his weakness. So imagine where your pieces are going to be their most effective and then try to get them there. And so that's kind of what I'm doing here, is I'm trying to get my pieces focused on his weakness. Another fantasy position I'd like to have is have those rooks doubled up here and then get one up here to c7. So he does exactly what he should do, which is defend that d7 square, and he is allowing his bishop the freedom to come off of that back row now, connect his rooks, open up the diagonal for his bishop. Things are looking up for him. So this is a natural move for him, 19 rook b8. Okay, a3 has an obvious point, I think, and that is to kick his knight out. Now his knight has got an absolutely fantastic square right here. His knight is going to make a home right there. I can't kick his knight out of there very easily. I don't have any pawns that can attack there. This pawn's already too far past. This pawn's gone. So I can't just kick his knight out of this little home. That little home right there reaches into my position in several different places. Where he's at now, it reaches into c3, it reaches into e3, it reaches into f4. It's reaching all over the place into my position. It's kind of a forward base for his piece. Now, what I'm doing by playing a3 is kicking him back to it. And that's where he goes, which is very, very natural. But what it does is it takes away one of those forward jumps. He can't jump to b3 anymore. He can't jump to c3 now. He can't jump to e3 now. The only place he can jump to from d5 is f4. Now later on, if I play g2, he can't even do that. So at some point, I'm going to have all of the forward jump points for his knight taken away from him. So being on d5 not nearly as effective as it was. Now, I can't go putting a rook on any of these places or he'll take it and win material. But I've reduced his reach into my position by one square, by one move basically. If he were to jump to here, then he would be able to reach another place in there. So I basically restricted his knight a good deal by playing a3. I kicked him back to his forward base, but he can't go very many places from that forward base anymore. He only has one more spot, and I'm going to take that away eventually. One of my goals is to get to play g2. That's going to keep his bishop from attacking any of my pawns along that diagonal as well. So that's the theme I'm looking at. I want to get his knight out of there, out of my way, and take away its forward jump spots. So I play knight g5. Why in the world would I play knight g5? Well, there's a couple of reasons. One is you might think, okay, he's jumping up here and trying to attack the king. Well, that would be really, really foolish at this point because none of my pieces are over there. All my pieces are over here. How many moves would it take to get my bishop over here? Well, it would just take one. And if I were to move bishop to d3, I could be attacking the h7 pawn. And that's all, that's great, but does it do anything? No, he just moves h6, and now I've got to abandon the attack. So there's nothing really brewing here. I could move my rook up to d3 and across, and now I'm attacking that square again. Does that really do anything? No, and it's a really slow attack. So no, I'm not really threatening either of these two pawns or the king side at all. My goal here is to get to my forward base for my knight, which is d6. This has the same properties. This has the same properties as the d5 square for him. Whoops, what did I do here? This has the same properties as the d5 square has for him, but it's actually deeper into his camp. d5 is not even in my territory. d6 is well into his territory. So I'm going to be reaching all sorts of squares in his camp, as well as being able to jump back a square into mine. So d6 doesn't need a jump point forward like his d5 needs a jump point forward. He needs a place to go to be most effective there. I don't. I'm already forward in his base. So if I can get my knight to d6, then I'm going to have a very, very, very good knight. So here's where I'm trying to go. I'm trying to go through e4 and to d6. That's my goal with knight g5. Doesn't really do anything for this king side, although it's okay. It's okay with me if he reacts to that. I'm not going to stay here. I'm going to go to e4 and then to d6. I don't think he was reasonably fooled by that, and I wasn't trying to fool anybody. I'm trying to get my knight there. But I think based on the way he played, I think he's savvy enough to know I'm not going to do anything stupid over here with just one piece anyway. So, bishop b7.